Yeah.
Mando, what's happening?
What's going on, man?
Man, I appreciate you a
Um,
ton, bro, for showing up and getting in the call, man. How can I help you?
just some advice.
Yeah.
Me and my ex, we just broke up not too long ago.
Okay.
Officially separated about a week and a half or so now.
Yeah.
Um, I'm just trying to figure out how to navigate this. I know I need to focus on myself. I'm already in therapy. I'm going to the gym, but I'm just kind of confused at like the signals she was sending. It was
Mm,
the night that we split, and she told me she wanted to leave or that we should take a break from each other.
yeah.
I found out later on that she was like not gonna leave immediately. She was gonna try to stay here in my one bedroom apartment with me.
Okay.
And I had to put my foot down and I told her, I said, no, like if this is your decision and you wanna go, you gotta go tonight with all your
Mm,
stuff.
mm,
So that happened. That man, that killed me
yeah.
to say that, but I had to stand on business. The following day, she hits me up talking about she's hurting so bad and that she misses me and the animals really bad.
Yeah.
And then it was about a week later, she hits me up asking for $50 so that
Huh.
she could get her check from her old job because obviously with what happened, they pushed her out. Um, I'm just kind of like, she was talking about how she felt stuck and she felt trapped, and I'm just like, well, like I know where that stems from because we weren't good with our money, or we'd always just spend it on like food or like other stupid stuff instead of saving it to try to get a car or get up out of the situation that we're in.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm just kind of confused at like the signs she's throwing because like she didn't necessarily say like, no, we're done.
Yeah.
But I'm like, is this it? Like, are you really leaving? She said, yeah. So I was like, cool, I respect it, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, to this point, like, she's still stalking my socials. Like, I don't know how often she's on my TikTok, but I get a notification every time she clicks on it. She's one of the first people to watch my Snapchat stories. I've blacked out all of my other social media. I'm not even really on Instagram
Yeah.
or Facebook or what else, TikTok necessarily.
Yeah.
But I just posted myself on Snapchat, and she's like always one of the first ones to sit there and watch that.
Yeah.
So I'm just like I'm very confused. I'm very confused, and I know I need to focus on myself, but at the same time, I'm still very confused at the whole situation because we never really had like a sit down talk. It was just like she texted me, I think we need a break, XYZ.
Yeah.
And then I said what I said, and I'm like, hey, if this is your decision, then you need to come home and pack your stuff tonight. She read it, didn't even reply. She just walked in like hours later with bags and her friend to start packing her stuff. So I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm just confused.
Yeah. 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 I can get that. And I think well, first and foremost, I think we know a lot about dealing with the feminine in some aspects. Uh, and how sometimes when the feminine is uncertain, which is maybe more sometimes a natural occurrence. It's not to say that they don't have brains, they can't think. Of course, women can, and they're very smart beings. But in cases where there's just uncertainty, sometimes you kind of see some of this, back and forth type of float your boat kind of behavior. Um, they'll pack their things, they'll leave, and still be watching social media stories, still be, active and engaged, all the things. And, I think as we're healing and maybe making intentional decisions, one, I want you to see this as just as the distance has been created, you get an opportunity to look at this with some clarity, right?
Mhm.
Clarity on what you really had, what's really there, um, and obviously, what is there to learn from this experience, even though it wasn't a relationship that you really wanted to end.
Mhm.
And then the second thing that I think is important to consider too is, you know, uh, as much as we want possibly to understand her behaviors at the root and why she's doing what she's doing, uh, in all honesty, man, even learning the answer, probably wouldn't even be as beneficial as we think, because after we get that answer, we probably want more answers to more questions. And that's not to minimize some of the thoughts that we're having. I just want us to consider that when we decide, as let's just again sticking it to like a masculine feminine aspect, man, when we decide to make a decision, the feminine energy has a way of just sometimes being testy with it.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it's not for us to really try to stay in that confused space with them. I think sometimes it's just, hey, you made the decision. It clearly, whether it was something you meant or something you weren't ready for or were ready for, your actions showed otherwise. You came, you packed your stuff,
Mm-hmm.
you brought your friend, all the things. So even though there may not have been a formal conversation, actions will always speak louder than words, right? And I think
Yeah.
that's something that we can
Like
always,
she had
yeah,
made like a whole like exit plan when she had texted me. She wanted like a break. She was
yeah,
like, "Oh, my friend so and so offered me her second bedroom in her apartment, and I have a job lined up,
yeah,
different in the town next over,
yeah,
XYZ." And I'm like, "Cool, then go do that." Come to
yeah,
find out, the job that she had lined up fell through, and like while we were in that funk, and I was trying to figure out where her head was at, it was like 9 or 10 days, and then she drops that bomb on me on the 11th, and I'm just like, bro, like I was over here trying to talk with you. I'm trying to give you your space,
yeah,
trying to have a conversation with me.
yeah.
You're just you're gonna be like my previous ex and tell me all of this over the phone and not have a conversation with me. I'm like, cool, appreciate it.
Yeah. And I want you to, and that's, and I think it's okay too, man, to be, to express some of those frustrations with how that unfolded, for sure. And just be honest about it, because I think it's part of the process. It's part of the grieving process, just getting to a place of navigating through that relationship and letting it go. And you know, she's possibly in a space too, man, where, you know, obviously if the job didn't fall through, who's to say she would be reaching out, right? And so
Mhm.
um, I think the best thing that we're able to navigate through is maybe instead of trying to figure out, okay, why is she doing what she's doing? Does it mean she still likes you? Does it mean she's still interested? I think, you know, there's three pillars we want to always consider, right? There's the life we're experiencing, there's the meaning we're attributing to the life we're experiencing, and then there's the actions that follow the meaning we give to the experiences we're having. And so with the experience, right, it's really a decision of focus. Where am I going to put my focus? All right, because where I put my focus is the life I'm experiencing is often the life I'm focusing on.
Mhm.
And so there's lack and abundance everywhere. There's good and bad and rough and healthy and all the things in every situation. It's just a matter of what you focus on that
Mhm.
makes a big difference. And then that helps us understand too the meaning, right? So what's the meaning that I'm attributing to this? Because if we're being honest, some of the confusion can also be just from the meaning or various meanings that we might be attributing to her still watching the Snapchat stories and clicking on the TikToks and all the things that she might be doing. And we might look at that and be like, oh, that means she's still interested or she still wants to reconnect or still wants to give this a chance. And, you know, I think in the same world where those things are happening and we're still focusing on where you are and healing forward, we recognize that that doesn't have to mean that. It can
Mhm.
also mean that she's still trying to figure things out for herself. It
Mhm.
could also mean that she is, you know, possibly just like just still programmed with the norm, depending on how long you guys have connected, been dating, and
June
some
would
of the
have been
things that
4 years.
would have been 4 years.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a long time, you know, and that's a
I
long
was actually
time.
planning on proposing to her on our
Oh
anniversary.
wow, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and this is
Like,
and you know, I do want to say this too, man. I don't want to necessarily present what I'm saying in the manner of like shutting the door completely,
mhm.
because you know, 4 years of a relationship, man. You know, she wanted to take a break. It may not have been in the direction of, you know, taking a complete break. I don't want to give false hope, nor do
Mhm.
I want to just speak to delusions. But I also think too, man, like 4 years of a relationship. Not only does that take time to navigate through when the relationship possibly finishes, but there is a moment in space, man, where she's still trying to figure things out. You're still trying to figure things out. And who's to say? Like this isn't something that comes back around another time. But instead of possibly giving it that kind of meaning or, you know, that kind of direct approach, I think what's best, man, is, you know, being being able to look at this from a bird's eye view as distance is given. What went right on the relationship? What was healthy? What were some areas that maybe weren't as healthy? Being honest about the areas that, yeah, obviously you're still working through or you could have worked through.
I mean, I'll tell you
And
straight up. I'll tell you straight up.
yeah,
The only things that we ever fought about was her addiction and mine.
okay,
Hers is with substances. Mine is with stuff on the internet.
okay,
The only other thing that I would nag her about, and I am realizing that I may have seemed very, very controlling, is the people that she hung around were definitely not the best influences when it came to her addiction.
mm,
So I would just try to tell her, like, hey, I'm not going to sit here and say you can't hang out with them, but
yeah,
just know that I know that they're not the best influences for you when you sit here and tell me that you yourself have a hard time saying no to things. So I just want you to be more aware of your surroundings and
sure,
who you hang with.
sure, yeah,
Now, you take my faults, my addiction, and my, I guess, anxious attachment to when it comes to like her hanging with people that I knew were not the best influence. You subtract that from me. You take her problem, her addiction problem, and you subtract that, and we literally never fought about a thing.
uh,
Like the connection is undeniable. I tell everybody that she is like the female version of me when it comes to music, the things we like, the mannerisms, the food we eat, the stuff we like to do, it everything.
yeah. And I think those are some, and that's very interesting and a very interesting dynamic too. If that's really all you guys ever really had disagreements on, and how sometimes those things can spread too, depending on the severity of the issues and the struggles. Um, but yeah, man, I just think this is a good opportunity, like I said, man, to just look at the distance that was created. Stay open to the lessons that you're able to gain and learn from the experience. And instead of maybe trying to attribute different meanings to some of her lingering, I think there is a world where this is something that can be tested, and testing to some of the stability that you have there, and just not attributing. And it's going to be easier said than done, but just being aware of the meanings you're attributing to, the story views, the messages, the access. And as you're focusing and realigning with where you are and where you're trying to go, um, just know that it's less about her lingering that maybe is the struggle, more about what meaning are we attributing to her lingering. And just staying curious about that, staying open
Mm,
about that, man. And I think really coming back into the present with what is, with what happened, with the behaviors, and allowing that clarity that you get from there, from what you see through behaviors, to be what helps guide your decision, and continuing to remain in aligned in your values as well, as you're navigating through it. Because again, who's to say that she doesn't come back around? But the question isn't necessarily, hey, I can't wait till she comes back around, or planning for that. I want you to be able to make that decision, that even in the event that she does, you're aligned in a healthy place to make a healthy decision on whether or not it makes sense to reconnect, even at that point,
mhm.
to rebuild and move forward with whatever could be created from it. Um, and so, yeah, I think I think again, it can be a natural occurrence to have someone linger around in those spaces, but we don't have to take it personally, and we don't have to really allow it to mean anything.
Mhm.
As we're kind of grieving through, the relationship, the loss, it's still fresh.
Mhm.
Some of those thoughts are still going to show up. We're not trying to rid of them. We're not trying to minimize them. We're just being aware of them and allowing ourselves to process through them as we move forward. Does that make sense?
No, yeah. Like I said, I'm just a little confusing because of how it all played out.
Yeah.
She leaves, hits me up the next night. Oh, I miss you guys so much. I miss the babies, the animals.
Yeah.
And then, like we kind of went back and forth because one thing that I noticed with being away from her for so long or so many days already
Yeah.
is that her money in the past couple months hasn't been right, like it hasn't been in the past.
Mm.
So I reached out to somebody who I knew used to get her stuff. Um, and funny enough, she actually texted me and said, "Hey, did you text so and so?" And I made of like maybe not the best move, but I said, "Yep, that tells me everything I need to know."
Mm-hmm.
He goes, "No, no, like I haven't reached out, or no, he has my, he texted me." And I'm like, "You said you blocked him. So
Mm.
how is he still able to get in contact with you if you had him blocked everywhere, right?" Um, so I ended up going on like a rant,
Yeah.
but it was like a few days, and then she hits me up talking about borrowing $50,
Yep.
and then like triple text apologizing. And then I
Mm-hmm.
responded. I said, "Hey, appreciate the apology." I told her straight up. I said, 3 weeks ago I would have sent it to you, no issue, no hesitation. I said, but since you decided to end things, I can't be that safety net anymore.
Yeah.
And then I was just like, "I hope you understand." And then she double texted me again, and I just ended up leaving her on red because
Yeah.
I'm just like, I don't like. I want to talk to her. I want to get that conversation and see like, okay, is this for good, or are we like really just stepping back to breathe
Yeah.
so
You know, I
individually we can mature
yeah.
on our own and then come back together in a better headspace.
Yeah.
I'm just
Y-
like I'm battling with the no contact thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's understandable because again, you spent 4 years with her. I would say again, I would say, man, let this be a space that you allow just some space between you two, um, to really get clear on what's there and what decision makes the most sense to you. Um, what decision is the most aligned decision to make for you to either re-engage or move on and heal and as you're getting back into alignment and allowing these things, one of the best things that we can do to actually decipher or kind of clear the fog that confusion creates is looking at the definitive decisions people make,
Mhm.
um, instead of paying attention to what was or what wasn't said, which again I think in healthy places both will align, especially when we're in places and cultures or responses, relationships where what someone says doesn't necessarily match up with what they do. We pay attention to what they do because it always speaks louder. I tell people all the time, words are not fruit, actions are. And so when you look at the actions and the definitive ones, because obviously we can look at her watching things, sending text messages as literal actions, but we also know that those are repercussions of inconsistencies too. And so we look at the definitive action. And if there is one definitive action that you've seen throughout the last couple of weeks, is she came to the house and grabbed her stuff. And so, as far as we know, in regards to the legitimate decision, is like, yeah, space is granted. And I think how you're handling it in terms of not being the safety net, I think that's appropriate. The no contact can be a challenge because, again, yes, you want to have the conversation, all the things, but I just encourage you, man, to let this be space because I think there's a beauty to engaging in things like this that even though it's not something favorable or wanted, you'd be
Mhm.
surprised at the type of blessing that this could provide for you to be able to take a step back before you were actually going to engage and do all the things. Take a step back and allow that space to be there. And if it's something that's legit, if it's real, if it's something that really is supposed to get to that stage and that level, man, I think it'll come together, and you won't have to force it. And space is an opportunity for you to get back in alignment with what you value, compare it to her in the relationship, and
Mhm.
not necessarily do this because we want to come back together, but do it to get the version of you as stable and as present as healthy as possible. Um, because by that point, who's to say that she even makes sense by the time that you come to this aligned posturing? And we don't want to
Mhm.
force that.
Yeah,
We
no,
want we want that to be something
that's
that's
definitely
healthy.
something that's on the front of my mind.
Yeah,
'Cause I do love her. I do want to be with her. I feel like she is my person.
for sure.
Um, it's just kind of like I do plan on reaching back out to her in
Okay.
like a few months. Because I did leave her with one thing, and I was like, "Look, like I know we're broken up, but I told her straight up, I was like, I'm gonna go put in the work that I need to go put in.
Yeah.
can keep you in my life because it's not that I need you; it's I want you in my
Yeah.
life. Um, and the last thing that I left her with, because I was trying to get my stuff in order, was the phone. I had got her a phone um, year before last for her birthday,
Sure.
and it's gonna be paid off by September. So I told her like, look, I got you on your phone. I got it for you as a gift. It's gonna stay that way because I initially told her I'm like, look, you need to figure out what you're gonna do about this phone because I need you up off my line. But then I realized how much of a jerk I sounded like. And I'm like, I bought that as a gift for her. I'm like, I'm not gonna flip the table now just because we're not together.
Okay.
So I kind of planned on just giving her this space until that phone is paid off. Mature myself, better myself. Like I said, I'm already in therapy,
Yeah.
hitting the gym, trying to get a car within the next couple months.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
hopefully by that time, maybe we can have some sort of conversation and see like, okay, can we like slowly integrate things,
Mm-hmm.
not per se go back to what it was,
Mm-hmm.
but something new. But at the same time, I only want something new if she's putting work on herself the way that I'm over here doing it for myself.
Yeah.
If, we sit down and she's has that conversation with me and I find out like she's still in that same position as she was, you know, come September 2 weeks ago, then I'm
Mm-hmm.
just like, okay, so then you did no advancing in life, you did no maturing, you didn't grow up, you really just took this time to get away and go BS with your friend up in NorCal. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And I think I think that's a cool that's a decent approach, man, to take, honestly. Just be open as you're doing this healing work, as you're showing up for therapy, doing the work, um, and really just engaging with lessons learned, reframing beliefs, allowing yourself to grieve this process. Be open to the idea that as you do this healing work, there's a potential chance that this doesn't make sense to rekindle.
Hmm.
Be open to that. Don't shy from that, because you're absolutely right. You could do the work, and then you come back, have the conversation, and there's nothing that's changed with her. And just because you're doing the work doesn't guarantee that she'll change. That's why we do this healing work for ourselves, to get us
Hmm.
back, not to
Exactly.
get the relationship back. And if that is something that is available at that time, cool. If it still aligns, you guys have done some healthy work. You're able to come back together and continue building. By all means, but we just don't want to force that. And so, like I said, man, dealing with some of that confusion, look at the definitive decisions that she's made, allow those decisions to speak for themselves, and stay grounded as you're moving and healing and processing through these things, man. And I think you investing in therapy and investing in those things is a phenomenal step, to really navigate through these things. Being honest with your role, being honest with your part in the relationship, and being able to move forward for the better for you, whether that's with her or with someone else in the future. And I think that's
Mhm.
going to be okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Was that? I hope that was helpful, man.
Yeah, I appreciate the chat. That was
Yeah,
a
absolutely, man.
little bit more clarity. I feel better about things.
For sure, man.
It's still fresh. Like I'm still sad
Absolutely.
about certain things, but like you said, with space and time apart, it does bring a lot of clarity, especially to the fact that I realized I was really carrying like 80 to 90% of like the financials.
Sure.
Like, and when I sit down and I think, and I'm like, damn, like all my money was really just going down the drain. But at the same time, I didn't care because that's my person, and I wanted to take care of her and
Sure.
give her everything she wanted, or as much as I could.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
no, definitely time apart has brought a lot of clarity.
Good.
Um, and I'm just slowly moving forward.
Yes, sir.
I don't want to say I'm fully moved on yet
Yeah,
because I'm
and
definitely
that's
not.
understandable.
I'm completely like I can't even look at another woman the same right now because I'm like I don't even
Understandable.
want to look at another woman. I don't want to think of another woman. Um, I'm going sober from a lot of things. Like I'm going on a month celibate, damn near.
Congrats.
Um, um, I want to say a week or a week and a half. No smoking. I want to say 2 to 3 weeks, no vaping, and I
Nice.
haven't drank any alcohol in almost 3 weeks.
Nice. Let's go, man.
I'm just straight like really. I'm trying to lock in and focus on myself right now.
I love it, bro. I love it. I love it, man. And I'm proud of you for taking those steps, bro. And just stay planted, man, and keep doing the healthy work and even grieving it. I don't expect you to be past it. It's 4 years, right? It just happened though the other week. It's
Yeah,
still fresh. It's
yeah.
okay to be in that process, man. And I just encourage you to keep taking it one day at a time, one step
Last
at a time.
last Monday, last
Yeah,
Monday that we split.
yeah, yeah. Keep taking your time, man. And I think things are going to work out together in the end, whether it's from clarity with her or clarity beyond her. And I think you're
Mhm.
going to be okay.
I appreciate it, man.
Yes,
Thanks for
sir,
listening.
man. I appreciate you, man. Take care.
You too.
Oh my goodness, these allergies are whooping me, man. Y'all put one in the chat, man. Put one in the chat for Mando. Great conversation, man. I love getting the opportunity, man, to engage. Even again, women, men, anybody, man, who is really navigating through some things. Yeah, sneaky live. Yeah, AP. Yeah, we missed our window earlier, and so I thought I'd come back around, do a late night live. I paid attention to some of the analytics. I was like, oh, y'all be on a little late, huh? And so thought I'd try it. Why not? All right, we got another. Oh, maybe they're not here. That's fine. So yeah, I really think, man, there's times, man, where we just I want you guys to always don't the distance does not always mean that it's a negative thing, even though it's something we may not ask for, we may not always want. It's something that we could later learn to appreciate because there's something about distance that gives us the ability to take a step back, look at something for what it is in its entirety, that allows us to make a better decision on whether or not it's healthy to re-engage. Is it healthier to move on? And that all is based on distance that's given that gives us a chance to come back into a place and focus of realignment. And that's in any relationship. And so it can be hard, but I think it's worth it in the end. Um, and in more ways than one. And I'm glad that that made sense. What is up, King's Clarity? What's happening? Appreciate you, man. I want to touch a little bit. Again, if you guys have questions, be sure to ask them in the chat. Hit the pink and blue silhouette if you want to come up on the call. We can spend some few minutes just talking and processing through some of your things. Um, and of course, be sure to follow. Hit the DMs with the secure if you're interested in next steps to coaching. I actually have a secure program that's live right now with a week one trial, okay, for free to help you get from anxious or avoidant attachment to secure attachment. So send me a message, DM me secure. We can get you next steps on what that looks like. If you want a free relational diagnostic or to get a free relational, attachment style quiz, be sure to go to the top of my link, the top of my page. There is a link that you can click to actually enter the relationship portal for your questionnaire to get your free relational diagnostic. Or you can just go to the bottom, click a gold line that says take your attachment style quiz now to learn what your attachment style is. Awesome first steps to really making a difference in your love life, but overall in your relational life across the board. Okay. Um, yeah, there was a couple questions up top. So True asked, I low key got blindsided and dumped. I'm trying to rebuild my future, but the mornings are so hard. Like during the day, I'm fine, but the mornings are very, very panicky. Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know if True is still in the chat, but without giving too many labelings to it, I want you to possibly there's a couple things, right? So I want you to first focus on reflect. Maybe was there anything that you were used to doing in the mornings with this past relationship um, that you no longer have access to, right? Maybe it was daily good morning texts, FaceTime calls. Maybe there was something in the morning that you were just used to doing. Sometimes the panicky. in the specific areas of the days can sometimes be connected to something as small as just repetitive behaviors that the body is used to engaging in at that specific time that you're not engaging in any longer. And so it's kind of now in a fight or flight type of response. Okay. When I hear panicky, right, I think of reactive states, threatened states within your nervous system. And so that can be a place too. Um, I will also say this too, not to get too deep into things. Um, I want you to also, I think, to deal with it regardless of perhaps where it comes from. And maybe this is something that will help you kind of learn more about maybe what it could be connected to if it's not to something specific within the relationship or patterns of it. We want to wake up we want to wake up and get into some breathing exercises, some grounding exercises. Um, you know, to just be able to relax and regulate and not necessarily feel like we can just continue to sleep it off or thinking that, hey, if I just get up and, you know, get back on social media and scroll for a little while, then that's going to help it. And so I think we got to get into a flow of grounding yourself, doing some intentional breath work. Make your exhales longer than your inhales. Inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth, um, as a way of really regulating yourself and coming back to a grounded state. Okay. Getting back into the present of your body, feeling what you feel as you are, just sitting still in your areas in the morning. And I think that could also play a role in perhaps the blindsidedness that you felt from being dumped. That can play a role as well. Your body is kind of still your body is possibly still in a shock from it. Clearly, by your verbiage, it was unexpected, wasn't something that you were prepared for. So, sometimes the body can have some delayed reactions to some of these things. And we just want to be aware of it, not necessarily try to wrap different narratives or meanings around it. Okay. And I hope that made sense and was helpful. Do you guys regret cheating on a long term, or do guys regret cheating on a long term relationship, even though he picked her? Lily, I appreciate the question. That sounds like it comes from somewhere there, and I would love to know where that comes from for you. Was there something that happened? Did you experience getting cheated on? Was it a long term relationship? Because that is a pretty broad question. But I also know that a lot of times, questions come from a specific place. So I want to honor that and be aware of that before maybe just throwing an answer out there. So if you could follow up with me on that, I would love to answer that question. Shout out to AP in the building. Can a person become secure without being in a relationship? Absolutely, AP. That's a great question. So when you think about secure attachment, obviously there's going to be times or your attachment style is probably going to be shown most when you are engaged in a relationship. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you cannot develop a sense of security outside of it. I think there's layers to security that a lot of people don't talk about in this space because obviously it's all centered on relationships. For instance, I'm going to take me for example. Okay, so I've had relationships, I've dated, I've been out there, right, to be able to expose the attachment style I had then and then the work I needed to do to get to a place of security. But a lot of my secure attachment has come from various different relationships, not even connected to something romantic. Whether it was shown in friendships, coaching client partnerships, whether it was shown through business partnerships, it was shown through familial relationships. We got to remember, y'all, your attachment style is initially cultivated and born between the ages of 2 to 9. That's typically connected to your caregivers, right? Parents, relationships to them. So when you're around family, if you still have access to your family, right, that's a good place for a lot of that to be exposed and for you to intentionally work on it. When I talk about layers of security, man, there's layers of security. Well, one, when we talk about becoming secure, it's really at an identity level. And so it doesn't take you being in a romantic relationship um, to be able to become secure. When you're single and you're not even necessarily healing, you're just single. You're waiting for the right marriage, you're waiting for the right relationship. Stay curious about your responses, the moments where you are questioning your identity in moments of rejection. something as small as a DM that gets left unread, a message that gets unanswered, when you get rejected from a job, okay, when you get rejected from a position, when you get, rejected from a business opportunity, or maybe you were told no by somebody in your friends or family circle who before told you everything was good and then plans changed. Like these are small actions and behaviors that can constantly continue to reveal to you, like, okay, this is where I'm at and this is how I handle those kind of things. And let it be information that lets you go even deeper into growing into a sense of security. If you go through the secure program, you'll realize that none of the requirements for you to go through it is you being in a relationship. You're talking to somebody who has grown to a sense of secure attachment and is not currently in a relationship, but realized that work needed to be done to get to security through relationships he previously had. And so all of it plays a role. All of it plays a role, and it's just layers to it. And as you get into a romantic relationship and you come into it and you believe, hey, I'm secure, took the quizzes, all the things, I did the work, and then you get into the relationship and there's some things that that person may enact on. You may see some experiences that happen that kind of slowly brings you back into places of anxiousness or avoidance. It doesn't mean that the security or the work you did to build that security beforehand was a waste. It just shows you that there's another layer to go. And this is a layer that was going to be harder to see because you weren't in a romantic relationship. Now that you're in a romantic relationship, this is something that maybe was laying dormant that now we can see, we can become aware of. We don't have to become shameful of it. And we just engage it and realize that even though we did work to become secure without being in a romantic relationship, that doesn't mean we have to break up with that person to then do more work to get back with that person. You can stay in that relationship knowing those patterns are there and actually allowing that person to be a mirror to you as you engage, as you grow, as you become honest, aware, all the things, and heal through it. So just like you can have an attachment style exposed in relationships and grow through your relationships and grow through attachment styles in relationships, you can most certainly do that outside of them. It's just different layers. Okay. And I hope that makes sense. And listen, your security isn't just limited to your romantic experiences. Think about your security that shows or doesn't show in friendships. Think about the security or lack thereof that shows up, like I said, in business partnerships. How it shows up in your relationship with money, fam. Like when your bank account is on zero and you just paid your bills, compared to if you had a little left over. Think about how different your secure or insecurities kind of show there. That's always a reflection. Okay, that's always something that's tugging at you mentally and emotionally, right? That we should work on. Think about how you feel about your body. Okay, you go on social media and on Instagram and you see all the gym baddies, got the 8 pack abs, got the hips, got the glutes, all the things, and then you look in the mirror and you see you, and if you're like, well, I don't look like them, and it starts to cause you to to come down, to be guilt, shame, all the things, that's something that's tugging at that layer of security. That's an area that we want to be attentive to build a sense of security. You're living at home with your parents and you're like, yo, like, I just feel like I'm so behind. I should be here by now. I should be here by now. All of that is tugging at various different layers of security that we can be attentive to engage with, to be attentive to the stories we're telling ourselves, the expectations we're holding against ourselves. That is cultivating various different levels of shame and guilt that we want to be honest about and process to get to a lane of security. So that was a long rant, but I hope that made sense, AP. Absolutely, you can become secure without being in a relationship. It's just realize that there's layers to it, and that when you get into a romantic relationship, that romance is going to expose a different layer. And it's just about you being open to that and engaging with that as that develops, and knowing that in the right relationship, space is going to be made for you two to come together to cultivate and build on that together. And I hope that made sense. Um, yeah, good. I'm glad that made sense. What's up, Vert? Good to see you. So Lily said, yes, 8 years with him. 2 weeks ago, found out about the other girl and he left with her. Gave him a chance to come back to me and work it out. and had me in a loop for about a year. And he just blocked me on everything beside iMessage. I think I'm not gonna try. Okay. Yeah, so it's a lot, right? It's a lot of heaviness. Absolutely, AP. I'm glad that was helpful. Give me 1 second. Y'all know me. My allergies are whooping me. Oh Lord. Okay. Um, so how much time we got left? We got 18 minutes. I'm gonna go live again tomorrow. So um I love small crowds and we'll be able to pick some of this stuff back up tomorrow. Let me answer this for you, Lily. You know, I think the biggest curiosity that I want you to reflect on is what about this situation? Um, what about this makes you feel that he needs to regret it? Like what is the scenario? What is the explanation? What's the story if he doesn't regret it? I think and that can be a tough question to answer, maybe a fast question to answer. I would love to hear your thoughts on that because I think I understand where your mind's going with it. Um, there was an 8-year relationship and he should have regret. He should have some sense of remorse. Um, he shouldn't feel good about what he did and all the things. And I think in a healthy lane, I would agree with you. Anybody who is actually healed and understanding of not just their behaviors, but how their behaviors impact others, I think that should be a natural occurrence. But to say that, you know, I felt like I was dropped like trash and you just jumped into another relationship. Yeah. And so let me go a step further with you, Lily. What would you say that says about you? Like just saying that, feeling like you got dropped like trash, he jumped straight into another relationship. What do you think his actions are saying about you? Um, on a personal level. Anything come to mind? And I appreciate everybody who's tuned in, all 7 of you. Thank you so much. You could have been anywhere on TikTok live. Um, and you chose to be here. For that, I'm grateful. I cared for him a lot, stayed loyal, and that's what sucks. Yeah, and so maybe there's a part of you that feels like, I wish I wouldn't have stayed so long. Wish I wouldn't have stayed so loyal. There's a lot of questions and curiosities that come with that, and maybe not to put words into your mouth, but there. Would you say that there's also thoughts of not being enough, not feeling enough? I'm just curious. It doesn't have to be. Um, but I think at the core, definitely. Okay, yeah. And so I think at the core, what you're really asking isn't necessarily an answer to whether or not guys feel regret. I think the core of your question is coming from a place of feeling like the way he treated you left you feeling like nothing. And really, in a way, just trying to deal with that instead of more of trying to feel like if God, because if he did feel regret, I don't know if that necessarily changes how you feel. We might say it does, but we still have questions. We still go on a search. We still try to find answers, play blues clues to try to figure out things. And I think my encouragement to you, Lily, is to allow yourself to grieve this loss. His family is involved now, but because his mom asked me what is happening, so I don't know how to go about it. Okay. Yeah. I think one, if the mom is asking, you just tell the truth. You tell the truth of what happened. You tell the truth of what's being experienced, all the things. Um, but I also would say too, I think it's important to give yourself time to grieve. Grieve this loss, grieve this relationship. It's heavy. 8 years is a lot of time, a lot of emotional investment spent. you cared, and I think the hurt that you're experiencing is definitely a sign that you love, which is a good thing. And now this is an opportunity to get back into some places of alignment moving forward. That's easier said than done, but it's a process. And it starts with just acknowledging the loss, acknowledging what was, and not necessarily making a life about clinging to what could have been, the potential, or what was wanted. And that's a difficult thing to do, coming off of something so fresh. But I just want you to be reminded, even in the midst of all of that, um, that this does not have to be the end of the road for you when it comes to love and relationships. It hurts. I just want to validate that for a second. It hurts. It's heavy. Um, but it's not the end for you when it comes to relationships. And it doesn't have this relationship and how you were treated does not have to become the defining moment or experience for what relationships can look like for you moving forward, and potentially for what a potential marriage and setting could look like for you in your life. Um, and I wouldn't say it's toxic. Again, I think social media ruins our relationships in a way where we can be quick to label things toxic, and we can be quick to label things right or wrong, good or bad, without having what's called nuance. I actually was just having a great conversation earlier today with my mentor, man, just catching up. And I think we lose the nuance is a lost art. I mentioned that in the call. Nuance is a lost art. And I think one thing that social media and as a whole, okay, so there's some good substantiated, and I think that's a word, substanced uh, content creators and messaging that happens on all places of social media. So it's not to say all of social media is evil and wrong. Don't hear that. But I think a lot of you guys' algorithm naturally is just prone to be receiving some of the worst things. And what we don't realize in this space is that we have a lot of people who have mics, cameras, who can just get on and say anything. And at the rate of what they're talking and posting, project their trauma onto other people. And sometimes when we get into these places of labelings like good, bad, or toxic, and all the things, we begin to swing on a pendulum of these labels that are actually coming from unhealthy places based on who defined them. And it lacks nuance. And because social media has not really been a place where we are okay with holding tension and navigating gray areas, it's easier to just give a yes or no answer to things when some questions, conversations don't really demand a yes or no. It just demands a time to process. Shoot, the Bucks ain't playing, my boy. They home. They on. They you know that. They home. Um, I'm not a Bucks fan anyway. I mean, I like Giannis, so that's why I got his jerseys. But uh, but I would say this, man. I would say, yeah, you're so young. Okay, what's your age, Lily? What's your age? You just gotta be careful with calling things toxic. Some of this stuff just demands a nuanced perspective. And we should move with it. We should move with some nuance. And I don't think 23, oh my goodness. Yeah. Um you wanted another option about staying in contact with his family. Yeah, I just think, I want you to just, if it's not a healthy time, if talking to them still kind of gets you riled up, emotionally, get you into unstable postures and positionings, be okay with not talking to them and setting those boundaries. Don't feel forced to respond, connect, to say things to them. You don't have to. It is not a must. Uh, and if they really want the answer, they can find it through him. And it doesn't have to be through you. And that can be okay too. And I want to give you space enough to be able to navigate that and be okay with making that decision. If it's like, bro, I just don't even want to talk to y'all. I'm good. You know? Um, and just realize, man, like I really want to encourage you as you're navigating through this that yeah, and it's okay to feel very lost. And I see Rachel's thought too. My boyfriend and I just broke up the other day, and it's so hard. And I think I want to give room for you guys. Again, it is it is hard, and it is okay to feel lost. and it is okay to not have an answer about it. It's okay to not know exactly how to feel about it. It just hurts. Um, it's okay for the tears to roll down. It's okay for the sadness to be present. And I just want you guys to feel okay with holding that tension in space, with allowing your emotions to be what they are without needing an answer to solve it, to fix it, to move past it, all the things. This is part of the process. And know that, as you grieve this, it's giving you the proper posturing to leave it healthily in order for you to receive the best healthy love that's available to you in the future, even though it may be hard to experience that in the moment. And that's such a great question, Lily. I feel like he wasn't as attentive to my emotional needs as I needed him to be. Um, yeah, Lily, I think that's a great question. I like it to the stages. Okay. Have you ever heard of the stages of grief? Denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. I think the more that you study grief, the more that you experience, there's probably different things to it. So I don't necessarily say this in the stage of end all be all. And, I think, yeah, okay, so you're familiar with it. This is kind of a process, the manifestation of grief itself. Okay. So grief is a process, and this process is what manifests the various emotions within it. And so I think this is a framework that kind of helps you not stay and grieve so long to the point where you waste the rest of your 20s grieving on this relationship, right? Like you said, there's 8 years. You guys have been dating since high school. I mean, good Lord, right? So longer than that, maybe. It's been some time. And so um, I want you to, one, take this framework, and, I want you to sit with it lightly. Uh, for every year, take 2 to 4 months, just away from the dating scene. If we were to do the low number, okay, you would probably take a total of 16 months intentionally just away from the dating scene at least. I'm not saying you can't be healed and moved on before the 16 months. So don't hear me say that in the sense of if it's not, you know, yeah, I do. I have one-on-ones, Lily, absolutely. And it sounds like this is probably one of those moments where a one-on-one is helpful. Do me a favor, send me a message, secure sessions. Send me a message, secure sessions, and I'll just send you the link to my Calendly to get on my books. Okay. We can actually get a call in as soon as tomorrow. How does that sound? We can get a session in as soon as tomorrow. You don't got to wait till, you know, Monday, all the things. And yeah, we can actually get one tomorrow. I got like 6 minutes left on the stream, so you'll get it as soon as this is over. And you can get on the books, okay? And let's unpack it, okay? Because there's some things that we can really, really, really get to the nitty gritty with all this. But I think part of grieving relationships is just giving ourselves a process and a time frame to do it. It's kind of like checking into the grief hotel. I'll leave it with this analogy. When you check into the grief hotel, just like you check into any hotel, you got a few people, a few different people, right? You got the people that unpack all their bags and put it in the drawers, put it in the closets, all the things, um, because they're trying to make their temporary stay feel like a permanent stay, right? Shout out to Shanice in the building. What's up, girl? That's me. Ain't no hate, ain't no shame to the game, right? Don't hate the player, charge it to the game, right? There's some people who do that, and then there's some people like me. I like leaving my stuff in my bag because I know I'm not going to be here for a long time. And it's not to say one direction is better than the other, but here's the picture that I want to paint with you is because sometimes what we can do checking into hotels or checking into places that we're temporarily staying at is we can go so far as to not just put our stuff in the drawers and the closets and make ourselves at home for the temporary stay, but if you're not careful you might go to the extent of adding pictures on dressers. Of course, I'm not going to say as far as changing wallpaper, or all the things, but perhaps that could be an option too. And before you know it, what was supposed to be just a temporary stay turned into a new living situation where you live there. And there was a check in date, and the checkout date just continuously grows further and further apart. all because of the level of comfortability you grew in trying to make what was to be temporary longer than what it needed to be. And I think when we move healthily with a hotel, we have a check-in date and we have a checkout date. And this is an opportunity for us to move in the grief hotel where we have a check-in date and we have a checkout date. And that means we have a beginning and we have an ending. And these stages of grief that we're just talking about gives us an opportunity to look at it from that process and say, hey, there's a beginning and an ending. We don't grieve. There's a couple things I could tell you about grief. I'm glad you noticed that, Shanice. There's a couple things that you can notice about grief, right? Grief, number one, I cannot tell you how to grieve. I cannot tell somebody the right or wrong way to grieve. I think people grieve differently. Um, Secondly, the one thing I can't tell you is that um, I cannot tell you how to grieve. I cannot tell you how long to grieve. Okay. Um, but what I can tell you is that your life is not designed to stay in a grievous space. Um, and that is just not okay. You know what I mean? And your life will pass you by. Staying in postures and parking spaces where your life was just never designed to be put on hold. Even the children of Israel, and this is where I go to my biblical foundations. Y'all got to forgive me. I love no, I don't. I don't apologize for it. But I don't want to go on a rant. Um, Even the children of Israel, when Moses died, they had 40 days, but they still had to keep it moving. Uh, Joshua was next up. God was like, "Hey, hey, uh, Moses, my servant, is dead. That's that's just what it is. Moses, my servant, is dead. What's up, Cleo? Late night stream. Thought I'd hop on here a little bit. I'm about to close it down here in just a few minutes, but it was fun. I'm back tomorrow, regular time. But I want you to think about this, man. He says, Moses, my servant, is dead. He says, now go. And Joshua is the next man up. And I can only imagine what's going through Joshua's mind. Being the right hand man to Moses and now being the runner up and the next leader to lead Israel to the promised land. That's a tough transition. Kind of something similar to what some of you guys have described in this chat so far, right? It's a unique transition. It was an unexpected breakup. And sometimes we stand at that bottom of the mountain, wishing, waiting, and hoping that God would revive what is dead. And we have to come to a place of acceptance that gives us the ability to move. And that doesn't mean coming to acceptance means that we minimize our emotions or we disregard them. I think coming to acceptance includes a process where, uh, we mourn and move. And mourning and moving doesn't look like minimizing, acting nonchalant, acting like it didn't hurt, it doesn't care. No, we mourn and move. Tears will flow. We will wake up day one and we'll be mad all over again. We'll be sad all over again. We'll be frustrated all over again. And as the tears roll and as the questions come about and as the confusion and fog is present, we start telling ourselves what is something I'm grateful for today. As the tears roll, we are starting to come back into agreement and alignment with our values, right? And we allow these emotions to flow without making ourselves feel so bad that they're present or that we shouldn't feel this way or that, you know, I feel so dumb. I feel so all the things that we might circle ourselves on from negative self talk. We don't have to engage in that. And it just takes time. And so, without harboring too long on that, again, Lily, I'm excited for our session. I think it's going to make a difference for your process and where you're going. I really do. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, Lily. And please DM me. I want to DM me secure sessions and so I can get you the Calendly. And anyone else who's interested in the session, okay, do the same. Secure sessions is an opportunity for us to connect for some sessions. If you're interested in joining my secure program and getting next steps to coaching, just DM secure. We can get those next steps going. Go to the top of my page, click the link, and take the questionnaire to get your free relational diagnostic. So you can actually uncover some hidden roots behind your experiences, um, so you can get some results and some change. How much is it, Lily? A single session, one-off session is 150. 150. Depending on where you're at, I mean, we might be able to work something out. Okay, so still DM me. All right. But the initial price is 150. Oh snap! All right, yeah, man, my allergies are just whooping me, boy, 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 boy. Um, free diagnostic, yes. So if you go to the top of my page and click that link that's in my bio, and then you click enter relationship portal, that gives you an opportunity to get a free relational diagnostic. Okay, you'll come to the end and you'll have about 3 levels of the diagnostic revealed. And then I want you to scroll down and hit the button. There's a gold button that says book your qualification call. Okay, you'll answer some questions there. And that either qualifies you for an immediate call or that's going to qualify you for the best fitting, next step based off your responses. Okay, best fitting membership, next steps, and even a wait list that I have going on that's active right now, that I have an actual program in there for people who are in the wait list to start getting familiar with some of the things I do here and how it's going to help you actually grow and heal. Um, and I think that's a place to be able to lock in as well. Okay. So be sure to do that. That's also available as well. All right. Well, my time is up. My timer just went off and I'm not going to stay a whole nother hour later. We'll be back tomorrow. Um, I know I have a session in the morning. I'm thinking 1:30 p.m. Central Time, as I typically do. Um, so be sure to follow so you know and are alerted when I go live tomorrow at 1:30 p.m. Central Time, and Saturday, same day. And we'll spend some time on some conversation, some Q&As. I want to say this last thing before I go. Our focus today was on social media ruining relationships, y'all. I cannot stress this enough. There's so much projected trauma and hurt out here in these sound waves. And if you're not careful, you're going to allow someone who is hurt, who is wounded, and who is coming from unhealed places remove you from positions, connections, and relationships that actually aren't as bad as social media is making them out to be. And I think there's a lot of people I'm running into, couples too, that are sitting in front of me, and we're slowly realizing that there was an expectation that was had about relationships in their mind based off of what they saw on social media, that they're coming into fruition of understanding that the real actual relationship marriage setting is not like that. And sometimes it's a shocker because there was an expectation that came with some of those things that just simply isn't being lived up to. And we are in a generation that talks so much about needs and so much about what I want. And I'm not saying those conversations shouldn't be had, but sometimes we put that stuff on such a pedestal that we lose sight of what healthy connections really look like. Um, and social media has definitely limited a lot of that. And if you're not careful, you're going to allow social media to get in between something you are creating with someone else that is going to actually hurt you, not help you. And you got to be careful of whose messaging you're digesting. Okay, I tell people who even listen to me, man, if it don't fit, you must have quit. If it don't fit, man, it's okay, right? I'm not the end all be all. Okay, I come from an honest place. Y'all know me well enough, long enough. For those of you who have been around this space with me, you know me well enough to know I'm approaching this in such honesty and such care. And at the same time, I know that this isn't for everybody. All right. But I want you guys to just be intentional. Okay. Who are you listening to? Whose messages are you rehearsing? Are you giving, room and authority to speak into your life and to speak into your relationships? Because not everybody deserves that space. Not everybody deserves that space, that voice, that microphone. Not everybody deserves that in your life. And instead of trying to change everyone to fit what you want, you have to be more intentional about your ears and eyes to be able to be mindful of that stuff, man, because there's so much expectation and so much lack of nuance and gray areas that people just don't like talking about. Everyone comes to social media for clean cut answers. And there are a lot of things about relationships that aren't as clean cut. There's a lot. There's a lot. Of course, there's clean cut, like, hey, fam, you should be intentional. It's either yes or no, right? It's either yes, you like me, or no, you don't want me. It's either yes, we want to get married, or no, we not getting married. Like, yeah, we got some clear definitives. Okay. Um, but then there are some interesting nuances in relationships, man, that we just want to be mindful of and we want to give room to be able to navigate healthily. And I think a lot of us just don't know how to, weren't prepared for, obviously, don't trust ourselves to navigate through it healthily, don't have community or trusted spaces where we can do that and not be guilt tripped, not be shamed, not be made out to be less than, minimized, all the things. And so we just want to be honest about that, man. We just want to be honest. We want to be in a safe space to do these things and navigating the gray areas. Social media oftentimes isn't the place where you're going to be able to navigate the gray areas. I'm not saying don't listen to anybody. There's some people out here that are really dope. Some messaging out here that's amazing, but not everybody is qualified to be and take up space in your life to tell you what direction to take and what to consider. I just want you to be curious about that because if you're not careful, social media will take you out of positioning, not because it made sense and it was the right decision, but because oftentimes people genuinely wish they had what you have. And they know that if they talk bad about you and about what you have long enough, they'll be able to get what you have. And that, nah, nah, nah. And again, the projected trauma, the unhealed wounds, the hurts, all that stuff that plays a role. So just keep that in mind. Keep that in mind, man. And I think that's something that's a great start for some of you. Okay, you might want to go through your social medias and clean out who you following. Okay, clean up your algorithm a little bit. Start hitting not interested on stuff you hear and that actually isn't helping you grow closer to the vision you have for yourself in relationships and romance and marriage and family and all the things. You might need to clean out your algorithm. You might need to clean out your followers list. You might need to unfollow some friends. You might need to be open to that because the algorithm is going to give you what you're looking for, and you want it to be as healthy as possible. All right. So I'm done ranting. Next steps: DM Secure if you're interested in coaching. DM Secure sessions if you want some sessions. To get on my books to work together, we can actually have a session as soon as tomorrow. Would love to connect with you. Be sure to also check out the top of my page for your link for your free relationship diagnostic and your free relation or your free attachment style quiz. Okay. Hit click enter relationship portal for the questionnaire, the diagnostic. Scroll down once you get to the landing page or once on that page to see that gold line that says take your attachment style quiz to get your free attachment style, to know what your attachment style is based on the few questions asked there. If you can't do any of that, be sure to follow as we continue navigating through our healing and doing relationships the right way, which guess what? Starts with doing the healing work on ourselves first. All right. You guys have a good night. Appreciate you a ton for kicking it with your boy. I'm going to go lay it down and I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.